here. We have there. Can we test?
Thank you. So the conference is an offline event, but this panel will be a hybrid type of panel. That's why we have technical support and 2 screens, and because with us we have our distinguished guests. Here are Lujza Varga from Hungarian National Museum, Professor Natalia Šukraj, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your surname, from Lviv Polytechnic National University, Olivera Đakovska from the Blue Shield Macedonia, and online, unfortunately, not able to join us in person is Cameron. Yes, he's online. Cameron.
Can you hear?
Yes, I can hear. Thank you.
So Cameron is a customs advisor and head of Heritage Crime Task Force, Border and Security Management Unit from OSCE, based in Vienna. We are very happy under the big umbrella of safeguarding cultural heritage in times of crisis, also to discuss this topic, which is unfortunately becoming more and more relevant for our work, unfortunately, due to many reasons that we will discuss during the panel discussion. And it's the topic of illicit trafficking and the measures we as heritage professionals can actively do to prevent illicit trafficking. Our first speaker will be Lujza from the Hungarian National Museum, because their museum is one of the most active players in actually taking preventive actions as a heritage national institution. Lujza has a PhD in history, is the head of the Department for International Cooperation. She's been working for many years already in the museum, and she has prepared a really informative overview of the work of the activities of the museum. You can have a presentation from there, or if you want to, whatever suits you better.
It's okay from here.
Okay. So you can use mouse or whatever is better for you, but let's open. Mouse or
Okay, so can you hear me now?
yes.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here. And I'm going to introduce you our museum, the Hungarian National Museum. You can see the main building now on the picture, but in fact it's a large institutional network. We have a lot of institutions in Hungary and abroad as well, mostly museums, but not only. We are mainly dealing with history and archaeology. We have 3.8 million objects, which is a large number. Most of them, of course, are just small, tiny archaeological artifacts, or parts of them, but even we also have the Hungarian coronation mantle, for example. So it's a large collection to protect and to preserve. We also have some extra tasks which were given to us by the Ministry of Culture and Innovation. For example, we have this National Archaeological Institute, which is responsible for full nationwide coordination of preventive archaeological excavations related to major investments in all over the country. This is a huge task, and we are also conducting archaeological exploration all over the country in connection with this. We are also running an ARHO database, so you can check all the archaeological sites of Hungary through this database. No? It's fine? Okay. Okay, sorry. So, yes, like this. Thank you. So the National Center of Museological Methodology and Information, this is mostly responsible for digitization, also for the whole country, for the whole Hungarian museology. So we have databases, online courses, an annual international conference on museum digitization, this Museum Digit, and last year we also had a panel on the connection between CPP and digitalization, because as we know, and we will see later as well, that there are a lot of connections between these two. Of course, we are dealing with conservation and restoration. I think I do not have to speak about this a lot. Of course, moving objects. We have plenty of objects on international loans, so we have to be able to safeguard them and protect them during the transportation as well. And of course, the museum security, general museum security, protecting the buildings, protecting the collections, protecting the visitors and the staff, so the people as well. And we are using, of course, different mechanical and electronical solutions for that. I think we are also very well aware of this. And as this panel is about the illicit trafficking of artifacts, I just wanted to quickly show you how much connections public collections usually have with the different actors of illicit trafficking. And I just wanted to show this because I think and I believe that museums can have a larger role in this whole fight against the illicit trafficking than only protecting their collections, so they can move forward, I think. So we are working with law enforcement on different levels. We have, of course, formal connections and informal connections, mostly with the art treasure subunit of the Hungarian police. And the main topics are, of course, the restitution, the illicit trafficking, and the illicit excavations all over Hungary. So we have official police consulting, of course. When they request our help, we can do that. We can help them identifying objects, help them checking the provenience, also help them how to or where to store them, and they can even give us the objects to be the caretaker of the confiscated objects for a short time, of course. Some words about the illegal excavations and looting. In Hungary, we have 15,000 metal detectors, which is a large number. It is legal to use these detectors, but if they want to go to a registered archaeological site, then they need a permission from the State Department. But as you can imagine, it is really hard to check it. So it's in fact a large problem that these people are out there. And that's why our museum started this community archaeology project. It was launched in 2017. And its main aim is to prevent these metal detectors to work for private collectors. And we rather want them to work along with our archaeologists and be our volunteers. But there are a lot of pros and cons for this whole project, so we are always in connection with the Hungarian police, and we try to really do our best in this field as well. We also have some new specialized tasks. For example, we created a framework and a strategy for CPP within the institution. We have an appointed risk manager, and we are creating up-to-date risk analysis, and we are revising our disaster risk management plans. It's really important because in Hungary all the museums have to have these plans, but if in real life they would be tested, they would fail most likely because it's not for real-time situations. So that's why we started to revise them and develop this whole program. We have another program which is about to reveal the losses of the Hungarian National Museum during the past 70 years. So we check our collections and try to recover every missing or stolen object. So the DRM planning, the UNESCO chair, this ITC approach was already mentioned. We are following this as well. Just some example about how to design mitigation and response measures. And now we are also designing these CP data sheets, which we will use during an evacuation. Of course, we won't be able to evacuate all of the objects if such a situation would emerge, but we will have to prioritize. So what we did, we initiated an interdisciplinary dialogue within the past 2 years. And our main partner in this is the University of Public Service, which is very important because they are the ones who are training and educating on the university level all the customs officers and police officers who will later be dealing with the illicit trafficking of cultural artifacts as well. So we want them to know about this topic. And this university is really an important cooperation. We also cooperating with the Hungarian police, the military, this agency for the protection of the national cultural heritage, and the Hungary Hubs Agency as well, which is a humanitarian agency mostly working in the Middle East. So this communication, cooperation and coordination is the 3 C's which we try to follow. And you can see the Blue Shield Hungary with red because unfortunately it does not exist as of yet, but we are working on establishing a Hungarian committee. We have some pilot projects. One is this Archive Dogs Hungary project, which is about training dogs to find and indicate objects of archaeological age hidden in a vehicle or in a package. It's quite a new project. So far it seems to be working, but we will see in some years. And we have this AURORA project, about which we will speak a little bit more. This aims to help tracking objects and thus help the fight against the illicit trafficking of artifacts and cultural property. Here you can see the consortium members of the AURORA, so the Balkan Museum Network and the University is also part of this project. And the AURORA is one of the 3 EU-funded Horizon Europe projects which are dealing with this topic. So we are cooperating with the other 2 projects, the ENKIS and the ENIGMA as well. So the AURORA is aiming to create an effective artwork digital identity, and it wants to create a protection tool, a preservation and a protection tool that can be used not only by museum professionals, but also by police officers, for example, or customs officers. So this is based on multiple technological pillars such as blockchain, advanced imaging, miniaturized electronics, nanomaterial research, and of course artificial intelligence. And the final goal is to achieve an artwork verification process. So the current state you can see here. So we are developing a miniaturized embedded wireless step tracker, and we want to be able to localize indoor the exact position of the artifacts. And the advantages of such a project as the AURORA. So I think that museums usually do not have good ties with the greatest and newest ITs or technical solutions, and I think it's a problem because we do not know what is outside, what we could use, how we could cooperate, on what topics we could cooperate. So I think that if we join such projects like the AURORA, we can have this kind of knowledge and this kind of network as well. Also, the AURORA is about the geolocation of the objects, which we can use during the transportation of the objects, during or after a disaster, because, for example, if we imagine an earthquake or anything, when we cannot actually go and see the exact location of the object, but maybe we can track them. And of course, the fight against the illicit trafficking of artifacts, please, yes. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lujza, and congratulations on so many activities within this field. We are very happy to be partners in AURORA project with your institution and Lviv Polytechnic University. We said that this field is interdisciplinary and a multi-sector field, and we are happy here to have a representative of academic community, who is also very active with the business sector, working with SMEs. And as a fellow economist, because Professor Natalia has a PhD in economics, and she has published more than 350 scientific papers, so something, a really great experience in her work. So thank you for joining us for the conference, and I look forward to hear your contribution on this topic.
Thank you. May I start here from here?
And I will put the presentation.
Can I manage? Can I manage myself?
Yes, yes.
No, maybe this one.
Let me just start.
Okay. Dear museum community, you can see that we have prepared our presentation with my colleague, with the head of the Department of Architecture and Conservation. I'm vice rector from Lviv Polytechnic National University, and in my presentation I would tell you about our war and its horror, about highlight the main problem of Ukrainian historical cities, museums, art objects in war, and our step at the university community, maybe not in crisis management, but what we try to do. You see, more than 2 years ago, Russia invaded Ukraine. Why? This is the main question. To the mind of experts, it's not about a territory. It's not about resources. It's rather about values of modern and progressive society, independence, freedom, and justice. To better understand the differences, let's look to these two pictures. They were made 2 years ago, maybe approximately at the same time. From one side, the photo was made in Ashgabat, where the president of post-socialist countries have met the summit gathered leaders from post-social countries. And the right photo was made on the round table of the European Council, a representative of J7 hosted in Bavaria in Germany. Yes, you can see the differences. This photo shows us the different value and the different worlds. And Ukraine tried to be in the other world. The war is not about Ukraine and Russia. You see, it's about the world and saving democratic values through all over the world. Russia's invasion in Ukraine is the biggest threat to peace and security in Europe since the Second World War. Approximately 20% of territory of Ukraine was occupied. You remember I told that it's not about territory, but only to compare, to understand all the horror. Is it a lot? 20%, maybe not. But you see, it's more. This is the pictures. It's almost 125,000 square kilometers. It's much than 0.5% of territory of Italy, and yesterday I found that it's more than territories of Serbia and Montenegro together. Russia's war in Ukraine was caused the largest refugees crisis in Europe since the Second World War, with over 6 million Ukrainians fleeing the country. Ukraine's economy has dramatically decreased. Since the 2014, where the conflict started, there were damaged, you can see the huge widespread destruction, more than 100 schools, 130 medical centers, and so on. And according to the UNESCO report, 349 cultural sites in Ukraine is damaged, and a budget of some $9 billion over the next 10 years would be needed to rebuild the cultural fabric. The national, this is some, you can see some examples. This, for example, Kharkiv region. It's because Lviv in the west of Ukraine and Kharkiv is on the east of Ukraine, where the war is an active position, and we can see in National Museum of our famous Ukrainian philosophy, Grigory Skovoroda. It was destroyed by a direct hit by a Russian missile on May 7 last year. There you can see another Ukrainian city, damaged city, Chernihiv. 12 churches were damaged, two church was destroyed, and so on. Near 70% of the city was destroyed. This is, you can see, the Donetsk region, and so on. We can show a lot of damages. Yes, there are 8 UNESCO World Heritage listed in Ukraine, 7 of which are the cultural site, and 1 is a natural site. All of them you can see in risk, and in Crimea is occupied. I represent the city Lviv. It's a beautiful ancient city in UNESCO list. So you can see even in our city last year, in March 25, missile attack on object located 1 kilometer from the UNESCO monument zone. And here you can see also the city that is in UNESCO, Odessa. She is in the south of our country. And last year, on 23rd of July, a Russian missile hit the Transfiguration Cathedral in Odessa. And here you can see, yes, we have prepared the recorded list. You can see, and also we can say that now the International Council of Museums has launched the emergency red list of cultural objects at risk in Ukraine. This is a small effort to help protect, you see, our cultural heritage for the next generation. Sorry. There are some recommendations to refer to the risk management, some recommendations to the museum staff, try to preserve everything that survived, protect the most valuable landmarks from possible enemy missile strikes or bombings, and record every episode and documents. So yes, we try, this is one. Okay, this we try to record at Ukraine. We opened this risk recorded list, and we try to record every episode and document all crimes committed by a terrorist state. Yes, we think that maybe in the future somebody will return us with all damages, but it's difficult. I represent the beautiful university, very ancient. It's more than 200 years old. We are enough high ranking. For example, in computer science, 250 position in the world ranking. We consist of the 17 institutes, very huge, and we have the Department of Architecture. We have also the Department of Museum Management, a lot of international projects. So this is a project how we, Ukrainian wooden architecture 3D planning project, because at Ukraine we have 2,000 wooden church. Some of them are in UNESCO World Heritage Site. And our specialists, you can see that undertake photogrammetric scanning. This is, the 11 cultural significant Ukrainian wooden church where we scan. Also the few projects of our university, and this is also the AURORA. I thank you, the previous speakers, she told a lot. But I would like only to add, if we had such maybe equipment, such instrument as AURORA will create, maybe it will be more easier to prove that, for example, Scythian gold that cost more than a few $millions are Ukrainian. Or you know that during the Russia invasion of Ukraine, Russian forces and organizations have stolen tens of thousands of pieces. And you can see that the main idea of AURORA, that based on these technological pillars, is to create, with the help of artificial intelligence, of blockchain, with hardware, software, create such systems, such mechanism that can track all the heritage objects and art pieces, and at that way can help heritage preservation and protection. With the main idea is to create non-invasiveness, low cost, long-term stability, confidentially, and data security instrument and mechanism. And I hope that our team will manage, not only we, because there are the 9 members in this consortium, that we will be managed to create such mechanisms. Thank you. Thank you.
Da držam tamo ili samo mi ovo treba?
Možete da učvredi, možda da hoćete da gledate. Možda tako.
Može samo da malo krenu.
Dajte da prebacim vašu prezentaciju.
Nema vrska, samo koliko da ga gledamo.
Hoćete se zamijeniti?
Hello everybody, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Olivera Đakovska-Tačevska. I'm the president of Macedonian National Committee of Blue Shield. Blue Shield is an international organization that works worldwide. In Macedonia, we established the organization back in 2002, so in these 24 years we are trying to make assessment of all the possible crises that we as a museum worker are facing, and to give some directories how we should develop prevention, how we should develop good and proper response to different situations. So Macedonian Blue Shield, Macedonian National Committee of Blue Shield is an association that gives attention to protection of cultural heritage in times of crisis. In this situation, I would talk about illicit trafficking with cultural heritage case study in Macedonia. a project that we were actually a forum, a conference that we were working together with the police and public prosecutor Konecka, who was in charge in all the major cases that happened in Macedonia, and show the severe problem that we have with the illicit trafficking of Macedonian cultural heritage. First, as a big information about this black market that is happening, that is flourishing all over the world, is the information from Interpol that the annual value of trafficking with stolen art and cultural properties exceeded only by narcotics, money laundering, and armed trafficking, which shows that this is a very serious problem and very serious demand for illicit trafficking of cultural heritage is happening. Forbes also gives some numbers with an annual turnover of over $6 billion, but these are even more and more increased numbers. The region of the Balkans and also Macedonia are countries rich in cultural heritage, where all eras of prehistory, antiquity, Middle Ages up to today have developed various civilizations that have left a mark and evidence in our territory. But today we are facing, as you know, many crises, starting from the war from Yugoslavia, economic transitional crisis, political instabilities, and that gives a very good and fertile soil for the illicit trafficking. So, the Balkans have turned into a source region for artifacts that are target of the illegal trade. Source countries is a term that is often in use, which means that those are nations rich in cultural heritage. Generally, they lie in the southern hemisphere near the Mediterranean basin. And they were once flourishing centers of civilization, but today many are forced to deal with economic and social problems, and that provokes a good chance for stealing from the cultural heritage that we have in abundance. The same situation in Macedonia, just like a potential of our cultural property. You can see some statistic, more than 10,000 archaeological sites are noted in the territory, 1,900 churches and monasteries, more than 200 mosques. What is very important and what is highly valued are the icons from the churches and monasteries. We have 2,500 registered icons, and we have to mention that the galleries of icons from Macedonia are considered to be the second most valuable in the world. So the interest for the Macedonian icons on the black market are really, really serious. And of course, in the museums, more than 1,000 artifacts registered in the museums. If we talk about art thefts and stealing from the illicit trafficking with cultural heritage, we can first mention thefts from the museums. I didn't put any explanation. The painting is provokes sensations by itself. There were several situations of theft from museums, but this is not a very often situation. I just put the painting of the famous painting of the head of a woman from Pablo Picasso that he donated in the city of Skopje as a donation for the citizens of Skopje in 1963 as a symbol of solidarity after the catastrophic earthquake. This painting was exhibited in the Museum of Contemporary Art, actually as a part of the collection of the museum, permanent collections of the Museum of Contemporary Art of Macedonia, but it was stolen back in ex-Yugoslavia, 1971, November, from the exhibit halls, and that provoked huge sensation, of course. It was in every news, and it was a very big information and news in all over Yugoslavia. Thanks to the rapid action of police and Interpol, the thieves were caught in Frankfurt. The next year, the painting was brought back to Skopje, but I put it here just to mention that even this situation where we have stealing directly from the museum halls, museum collections, not very often, but they do happen. Artifact thefts in Macedonia are mainly aimed to not that often to the museum collections, but mostly from specialized cultural and artistic folklore associations. Many of them are literally robbed. Icons and other ecclesiastical props from churches and monasteries are very often under attack. And what we have as the biggest scandals in Macedonia that happened in the last 2 decades were the ones where the target were mostly archaeological artifacts. The looting of archaeological sites, which largely fuels international trade in use and antiquities, is also one of the most deplorable of crimes involving cultural heritage, in that it involves undocumented artifacts. They are ripped from the ground and they make their way to the legal market. The rudeness was very big, especially with the first major operation. What you see on this slide is our major police and persecution operations that started somewhere in 2009. The first three provoked big scandal and interest because it involved huge number of artifacts. Phalanx 1. Phalanx 1 was the first major operation that started in 2010 when the police seized 5,500 objects, which is a huge number. I don't know if you can imagine the danger of the losing of cultural heritage from Macedonian archaeological sites when you see all this number. Everything started with this first photo, where you see massive marble stone marble materials that were literally looted from the archaeological sites were found in a private property. This is actually a garden of a private property. This man was known for the police. He was already convicted back in 2007 for illegal possession of archaeological artifact. And when the process of confiscation started, the police found out that he had big number of new artifacts that were stored into his yard. With the process of investigation, he started to explain that he was a passionate collectioner. And that he had certain people that always came to him to offer him to buy artifacts. So he named 30 people, and the police investigation started. All the photos that you have here are photos from the police, and that were involved in the processes of persecution. And these are very small amount of the materials that we have. But as the process started, the investigation started, in all those 30 people that were mentioned by this first man, in their houses all these materials were found. And not just that they found artifacts, they also found many photographs of the artifacts that were not located on the houses, that were probably already sold out. And on every photo there was a price inscribed, starting from 1,500 euros and up. So you can see this collection of coins that one of these men possessed. He literally treated himself as a collectioner. You can see a very good storage he created for his collection of Roman and antique coins, most of them from a Stobi archaeological locality. And when the police tried to confiscate them, he made a problem, declaring that he was asking for the commission to make an official collection to be registered as a collectioner. And because he didn't have legitimacy of origin, without proof of origin, you can't register a collection, you can't become a collectioner. And so the collection was confiscated, so he appealed. He sought justice at the Human Rights Court in Strasbourg even, the witness was that big, where he also lost, but he tried. So you can see we are talking about people that were literally involved, and they were very relaxed. If we take in consideration that massive stone plastic was stolen from the archaeological localities, that means that they really were very relaxed in their actions of looting, stealing, and selling the property. In all cases of these actions. Police seized equipment, detectors, metal detectors, probes, and what is also very important are the catalogs from the auction houses. And while the trial of Falun 1 was still going on February 2012, this object that was found as an evidence as a photograph, you can see this is a photo that police caught in one of these 30 people's house. He caught it as a photo with a price inscribed. 1 year later, the object was sold in an auction house in Germany for 1,175 euros. This also raises the issue of checks on the auction houses in Europe. The auction houses are legal institutions. Owning and trading work of art as well as antiquities is perfectly legal, but possession of antiquity only becomes illegal when illegally exported, stolen, looted, or smuggled. And in order to turn looted antiquity into a sellable one, the illicit provenance must be disguised by falsified provenance documentation or by exploiting, this is also very important, differences in country property laws, statutes of limitations, and also burdens of proof. Many scholars have discussed it, but Pasas gives a very interesting terminology, and we call it criminogenic asymmetries that are structural disjunctions, mismatch, and inequality in sphere of political, culture, and economy and law. Something that provokes the actor of illegal activities of illicit trafficking to find way how to make these statues of these stolen materials to be legal. A good example is the Nemodat rule in Anglo-American property, which states that thief can neither convey good title nor can someone claim good title through a thief, even if the property is transferred to a good faith purchaser. But in contrast, in many European countries, continental civil law countries, when the object is purchased in good faith, it can obtain legal status. So that's why most of the targets of all the illicit trafficking of our culture or heritage goes towards Switzerland, towards Germany, towards Europe, where they find a way how to make them legal. After all these operations, Macedonia started several measures to make the situation better. First was the changing of the criminal law in proclaiming zero toleration for possession of archaeological artifacts. That means that if you find something, even in your house, in your basement, and it's something that was found under the ground, you have 24 hours to call the police and give the item to the police from the Archaeological Museum of Macedonia. The experts should come and make assessment of the item. The colleague mentioned the metal detectors. With the changing of the criminal law of Macedonia, it's completely prohibited to walk around with metal detectors. Before it was punishable if they catch you digging or trying to find something with metal detector on the archaeological site. Today, if they see you walking around in the woods or in the somewhere with a metal detector, well, it's punishable. And what is also good, we have the Directory for Protection of Cultural Heritage that was established with the idea to protect the cultural heritage. You know, this kind of problems, but it wasn't functional. But with all the major operations that happened, there was a formation of a police team specialized in investigation of this type of delinquent behavior, which today is very good specialized and works precisely on this kind of illegal activities. Something similar to Carabinieri team from Italy, but they are not in some particular name connected. Now, I would like to adjust something to the discussion that the colleagues started about what museum workers can do this is also another situation of repatriation. This is also a good example of cooperation between Macedonia and Albania police. In Albania, there was a notice from 2014 that Albanian police captured a group of people that had 1,000 icons collection, illegally possession of 1,000 icons, and they called us to tell us that 20 of those icons were not from Albanian territory, and they assumed that they might be from Macedonian territory because some of the people that were caught were from Macedonia, western part of Macedonia. And yes, those 20 icons were determined already. Some of them were already published on Interpol site, and the whole documentation was made by one historian of us, Saša Cvjetkovski, that completed all the documentation as a proof for the public persecutor of Albania, and so those was the process when Macedonia asked for repatriation of the icons to be in Macedonian territory. What is interesting about what was found in Albania, we noted intervention on the icons. So obviously the market that was targeted was Greece, because many of the inscriptions from the original icons were destroyed, and a new one, Greek inscriptions were added. In almost all, here we have intervention not just on the inscriptions, but also on the background of the icon. The process of repatriation was happening 10 years, really long process, but we had to wait for the court process to be finished in Albania, and after that our demand to obtain back the icon status, and it finished on 15th of September 2003 when all the 20 icons were returned into Macedonia. Now we have a new appeal for 30 more icons. These are the measures that I already mentioned that we already established as a result of all the actions. But I would also like to mention what can we do to prevent, we as museum workers, what can we do to prevent? What is the most important thing, even the colleagues mentioned, are the adequate documentation. We all do have documentations of our artifacts. We do give descriptions and expert evaluation of every object that's entering the museum, but we have to accept that in this period of problem theft, we have to give this material to the police, to Interpol, and to everyone that should also understand. They have other ideas of what is important to be able to recognize, to track and recognize an object. That's why I recommend this project, Object ID, which is an international standard for the minimum information needed to identify art antiquities that is developed through collaboration. This is a Getty Museum project, and they made it with cooperation with museum community, police, Interpol, and you can find the material in this website and download it, because Getty Museum has this perfect idea of education, so we generally use it a lot as a very good tips of how to describe and how to provide enough information to everyone. And maybe it can help to AURORA project, some evaluation that Blue Shield Macedonia started to do in this latest period, and that is also with the idea of tracking our cultural icons. If we can track our pets by install microchips on them, if we lose them, why don't we track our items from our collection? So we started with some explore some possible techniques for secure hidden markings of museum artifacts, and we put our concentration on several techniques. These what you see here are UV markers, ultraviolet marker, which is fluorescent but transparent, can be seen by only by ultraviolet light, and it's in constant use for, as they say, hidden messages. So maybe we can use it to write hidden codes on each item that we have, that we possess in the collection. But as I could find out, this UV marker has some disadvantages. For example, if the thief somehow notice the hidden code, they can find way to destroy, to remove the UV ink. and they use solvents such as isopropyl alcohol, acetone, or mineral spirit to dissolve and remove UV, so it might be problematic. What amazed me most and I liked most is the product of water forensic liquid, Smart Water, that is the name of the brand. Forensic traceable liquid was designed by Phil Cleary in the 1990s, a former British police, and his brother Mike Cleary. And they did this liquid by varying chemical composition of liquid polymer manufactured from a selection of 24 rare elements and using a blend of microscopic additives to encrypt data. Millions of formulations are available. Each specific formulation acts like a unique marker, which means that the liquid itself is a code. You don't have to make your codes or something additional because each liquid has its own code.
Maybe we can leave the rest for the questions.
Discussion. I just want to say that this product was already used in marking museum collections, and that is in pilot implementation in Iraq when more than 200,000 artifacts were marked with this liquid forensic liquid, which is a very good example. And just to addition to the project of AURORA, when they did this, they also made an assessment with Reading University that shows that smart water causes no damage to stone, pottery, metal, or glass, which can be a very good product for use. Thank you very much. I'm sorry if I talk too much, but there is plenty of more.
So actually, when we did Cameron send the presentation, actually AURORA works on this kind of technologies, and it's a research project. And what is needed by museums, for example, when the chemical ink is mentioned. So, for example, if you make it permanent on an object, so here we need the opinion from the conservators. If you make it permanent on an object, then we are checking the object itself, but in some way we are making ID, like fingerprint of the object that cannot be sold later in the market. So, or what kind of permanency should be? Maybe it should be temporary, not to be easily erased. And these are the technologies that can help in, for example, cases like Ukraine, where you can later, in peacetime, where you can identify objects stolen from the country and take them back, because without documentation, every process in every country will be useless. So AURORA works on such technologies. You can look on the website, also follow Balkan Museum websites. We get several calls for PhD researchers, and please join in. So is Cameron ready?
Well, Cameron, if you are ready, your presentation is up. I'm sorry we don't have opportunity to meet you in person, but I hope the next opportunity. So if you are ready, and sorry for being late, but maybe you could start.
Great. Thank you for that. No worries. My apologies to everyone there. I wasn't able to make it in person. As you all are well aware, the security situation in Europe was already dicey, but with the Israel-Iran flare-up over the last week, things have become a lot more complicated for us, so I unfortunately could not make it. However, I am happy to be speaking with you here today, and I'm going to quickly take you through my team, which is the Border Security Management Unit, the program to combat trafficking of cultural property, and specifically the work of the Heritage Crime Task Force. And just sort of talk about how our team is a unique in the world team, a unique joint international task force, bringing together police, customs, border guards, forensic and financial investigators, cyber investigators, prosecutors, and military, alongside museums and ministries of culture in an effort to better address the trafficking networks that are moving heritage pieces, and how we actually take everything mentioned by my fellow panelists and put it into action and show some of the successes that we've had so far. So next slide, please. Just really quickly, for those of you who don't know who we are, the OSCE is the world's largest security organization under Chapter 6 of the UN Charter, and that includes 57 participating states from North America all of Europe and the former Soviet Union, as well as the Central Asia and Mongolia. With that, it makes things a bit complicated, but does give us a large span of territory to work with. But as you can understand, with certain countries in the group, like Russia and Belarus, things can get a bit complicated. Next slide, please. Actually, next slide. We'll skip ahead one. Perfect. Okay. So our program has existed in some shape or form since 2016. In 2016, it came together as a pilot project specifically designed to raise awareness amongst participating states as to why border guards, police officers, etc., should actually look at this area of crime instead of just looking at narcotics, weapons, tobacco, everything else under the sun, and reminding them that most of these pieces are actually moving along the same trafficking networks. With that, we pulled together a small expert roster of the time, between 8 to 10 officers. I was one of those officers, to work on various missions across the board. And this included doing missions in places including Montenegro, Cyprus, and others, which I'll get to in a moment. But since that time, we've then, fast forward a few years, and we operationalized the team. In 2020, we decided to make it a full-fledged program of the OSCE. And in doing so, we wanted to make it a program that could not only be used for training and capacity building, but to actually do something operational and tangible, something where we could actually get the items, make the prosecution, and return the items. And so that involves turning our expert roster into the Heritage Crime Task Force, which is now a 58-member strong task force involving experts and officers from 33 different countries and international organizations. Those officers and agents you can see on the board. This includes everything from U.S. Homeland Security, FBI, Italian Carabinieri, Spain's Guardia Civil, Spanish National Police. Dr. Lujza Varga, who's on the panel with me, is part of this team as part of Hungary, and all the other representatives you see that are on the board. And as of last week, we have also added Dutch police and Maltese police and Maltese customs. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, this all started as a pilot project. The very first mission of this team was in Cyprus in 2017. Again, just to get something off the ground, get some gelling between the police and customs agencies, and take a look at how these agencies could actually work better together. We do work with Interpol, we do work with Europol. They are part of our task force, but it is, of course, important to note that these organizations tend to stay in silos. Police works with police, customs works with customs, and we said it can't be that way. We need to find a better way to work to actually include police talking to customs, talking to museums, talking to financial experts. So that's what we did. And this mission to Cyprus was the first place we were able to do that. Next slide, please. In 2018, we came to Montenegro. We trained almost all of Southeastern Europe, as well as Georgia and a few other countries. Not only were there extensive conversations about how the OSCE could be better involved, not only in Southeastern Europe, but across the board, but we actually started to see the impact of our work. We witnessed several crimes in process, as well as seeing one arrest made by the police on the spots based on information given to them by the experts who were there in training, just by being on the ground there that week. The thing we tried to talk to with the experts, the thing we tried to deliver to the experts as part of the task force, is that it's all about making contacts, building regional intelligence networks, and sometimes just picking up the phone. If you have a trusted person in country X and you're coming from country Y, sometimes that can make all the difference, because timing is the difference. And as soon as these objects cross the borders, we know that the price goes up tenfold. If it crosses the second border, the price goes tenfold again. So there's a critical need for border guards in particular to work with police to make sure that these networks can be shut down, given the amount of money that is then funneled to crime networks, terrorist networks, as well as money laundering networks. Next slide, please. Mongolia, a bit of an interesting mix. This is where we started to talk about how regions needed to talk to one another. In doing so, we wanted to get Europe and the OSCE to start talking to the Asian partners. This includes Japan, Korea, Thailand, Australia, amongst others. And in doing so, we realized that there was an opportunity here to start to build broader intelligence networks, and this is where the idea came to turn the team from a pilot project into the fully operational task force. Next slide, please. Okay. So once the team became operationalized as the task force, they were given 4 core responsibilities. One was to help us to deliver training, not only to frontline officers, but also to policymakers and everyone else. to understand how this crime works, how investigating these crimes works, and how we can get everyone sort of involved in real time. So in delivering our training, we decided we needed to get a bit more hands-on and take people out of the classroom as much as possible. The second mandate of the task force is to be a rapid response team. If any of the participating states come to me or come to us and ask for help, we can deploy officers of the task force to said country within 48 to 72 hours to assist with museums, robberies, looting events, environmental disasters, anything affecting heritage, cultural property protection. We can do so upon request, and we have done so several times since the team was started. On top of that, we also do analysis of trafficking routes, trafficking networks, and we share this intelligence with law enforcement agencies. And of course, we also assist in those investigations and help deliver repatriations and bring prosecutions to the forefront. Before we skip slides, I will say Lithuania, actually, let me back it up. When the war in Ukraine started, we had a request from the chair at the time, Poland, to do something for Ukraine. Knowing full well that every other NGO would be doing humanitarian work, we said, well, we've got this task force. This task force can go in to help Ukraine to not only recover anything stolen, possibly, also help to identify, investigate crimes, as well as train the countries around Ukraine, not counting Russia and Belarus, on how to spot Ukrainian heritage and help assist Ukrainian law enforcement, Ukrainian museums and Ministry of Culture in repatriating some of these items once that is done, as well as then shutting down financing networks that were propping up either organized crime groups, the oligarchs, or others tied to the Kremlin or other areas. The first mission we did on this sort was in Lithuania. But when we got to Lithuania, we said we need to go bigger. We're in country, and again, we got to see police, customs, museums working on similar cases, but not actually talking to each other, even in country. So next slide, please. What came next was a plan. We got together in Scotland with our team, with British police, Scottish police, and said, okay, how can we make this a bigger, better thing and do it quickly because Ukraine needs help now. And in doing so, we pulled together our regional operational trainings, which if you switch to the next slide, please, kicked off in Finland in 2022. We brought together the Nordic and Baltic states to talk about exactly how we do this, how we solve these types of crimes, and put the learners into a simulation scenario-based training over the course of the week, where over the week, the trainees are put into mixed groups by country and by career paths. So maybe you have a Lithuanian police officer with Norwegian customs and Finnish museums folks. And in doing so, they are then made to solve a fictitious crime over the course of the week at mock crime scenes inside museums, archaeological sites. We do live darknet walkthroughs to the Nemesis marketplace. We make the learners collect evidence and then present their cases to a state prosecutor at the end of the week. Next slide, please. One thing I want to talk about is how one of the key takeaways from these events is not only the training for the frontline officers. We've since trained 250 frontline officers from 31 different countries. But the results are that we build regional intelligence networks and trusted partnerships. And from these trusted partnerships, there's many things that we've been asked to do or cases we've been asked to be involved in. What you're seeing here is heritage protective equipment being moved into Ukraine. As a result of the Finland event, given our expertise in customs facilitation, and customs clearance, we were asked to help the German museums network to facilitate the movement of these goods into country across borders, and we did so 16 different times over the course of 2022. This got things in quickly and, knock on wood, hopefully helped to prevent further damage than had already been done. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, this is important. So I mentioned intelligence and some of the databases, some of the partnerships that are built here. As a result of some of the intelligence partnerships built between police and customs in Finland, our colleagues at the Carabinieri in Torino, Italy, called me one day and said, Cam, we have a problem. We found a house outside Torino that has 300 paintings that we suspect are being trafficked from Ukraine. Can you help us out? Absolutely. So in this case, the intelligence that was used led them to a house where there indeed was the 300 paintings. And for our part, we brought down Ukraine museums experts to help us to verify the authenticity of the paintings, potential provenance, and determine sort of where they might be possibly returned to. Next slide, please. Now, this case is still ongoing. As it was determined, most of these items were not actually smuggled out during the recent conflict, but were in fact illicitly exported and then also illicitly imported into Italy 30 years ago at the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Some of these pieces came from government buildings, other pieces are from museums, some of which are historically significant in that they've got Leon Trotsky in the painting still, but we're still working on the case with Italian Carabinieri. Next slide, please. And again, these pieces, these items wouldn't have been found if it hadn't been for some of the discussions that were had in Helsinki. Next slide, please. Fast forward to early last year, we went to Bulgaria doing workshops in, or for Southeastern Europe for the Black Sea region, minus one country in particular, obviously. And in doing so, we started to deepen the networks, extending the conversations not only to Southeastern Europe, but also to Turkey, building partnerships there. And again, showing the learners how they can get on the ground, collect evidence, preserve evidence at times of conflict or post-robbery, making police understand what museums folks need, helping museums folks to understand that, you know, although the impulse might be to run in to save a collection, to perhaps wait until police arrive to help preserve some of that evidence. These are the sorts of conversations that we facilitate. Next slide, please. Another one, results and ripple effects. This is another case. Some of the trainees we had in Bulgaria were from Ukraine. We bring Ukrainian trainees out to every single one of our workshops. The trainees at this event were actually later in 2023 able to identify a case of paintings that were being smuggled into Ukraine from Slovakia. 18 paintings wouldn't have been found, according to those Ukrainian border guards, if it had not been for the training that we helped to deliver to them earlier that year. The case is still ongoing. Interestingly, like I said, they were going into Ukraine, but again, these are the results that we were already starting to see. Next slide, please. Okay, so building on that and getting an understanding that there's a real opportunity here. One of the projects we're working on now within our program is helping Ukraine to actually establish its own national heritage crime task force involving state police, border guards, customs, and everyone under the sun. Part of this work will be not only, of course, delivery of evidence kits, but we will be in the next coming weeks and months pulling together the team, helping them to understand sort of what we see as some of the challenges in setting up such a team, helping them to, or getting them to tell us what their challenges are or gaps, and helping to fill those gaps with training, with hands-on support 24/7 to help investigate crimes, to collect evidence at scenes of destruction, whether it's collecting munitions evidence, whether it's collecting anything essentially that can be used downstream at the international criminal courts or perhaps at another court. And preservation of that evidence will be a critical part of this. And this will also involve bringing Ukrainian trainees out where we will set up mock simulation conflict zones in France and the UK, where we'll be sending the trainees in to collect evidence perhaps after a museum is hit with mortars or other missiles, etc. Next slide, please. Another piece of work that we do is bringing the forensic teams together. I'll talk about this really quickly, given the time. What you see here are some Roman heads that were found in Austria that have been sort of sitting in the collection of the Kunsthistorisches Museum since 2015, as we are unable to determine the exact location of where they may have come from, given that the Roman Empire, of course, spanned a very large area. However, with our forensic folks from our task force, we brought our soil experts and our flora fauna experts in to collect soil samples from the sort of inner crevices and different holes within the statues. And that analysis is ongoing now to determine where it might have come from, whether it was Serbia, whether it was Turkey, or other points in between. So with doing so, we'll be able to hopefully repatriate this to at least somewhere reasonably close to where it originally came from. Next slide, please. Okay, Croatia, back to the region. Last September, we brought trainees from across the region, as well as from Hungary, Slovakia, etc., to Croatia to talk about how we can start to, not only do this work in the Balkans, but also how we can start to deploy technology. This includes using 3D scanning equipment, as simple as using apps like Scaniverse on your phone. Anything you can get into the hands of frontline investigators to do the job better and help the museums community, university community, etc., to make better assessments based on the evidence collected. This also involves UAVs, so how we can use drones for mapping, not only in peacetime, but also in investigation time, and how we can also use underwater photogrammetry. And this is what kicked off in Croatia. Next slide, please. We're almost at the end, I promise. This is, again, just showing some of the trainees doing the evidence collection. Turkey. Speaking about being rapid response, we were asked post-earthquake to come to Turkey to get a better understanding of what happened down around Gaziantep and the neighboring regions as a follow-up to the investigations, as well as take a look at the trafficking networks that are moving across the region from Syria and Iraq into the OSCE area. Eye-opening week. I know Lujza was there several weeks before we were as well. But these are the sorts of requests that we get. This is how we make things real, and this is how we're connecting police and customs across the board day in, day out. Next slide, please. We'll skip this one. Next one. Okay. So I want to point out, as a result, again, of some of the discussions being held at the workshops in Croatia, as well as the workshop in Vienna last December, members of our task force started talking to each other, and we were asked by Spanish Guardia Civil and Ministry of Culture to bring in our Egyptologists and our other experts to Madrid to examine the statue head you see there to determine its authenticity as well as where it came from. We have since determined with our experts that this statue bust that was seized in Barcelona, brought to Madrid, is indeed real. It is a statue head of Ramesses III from Luxor. Approximate value is 2.5 million, and we're now working with the authorities to repatriate this to Egypt. Again, these are the results when we bring the right people to the room, have them talk, and make sure that the different streams of law enforcement and academia and museums are all speaking to one another. Last but not least, I will mention this before we get in, there's some shots of members of the task force, including Dr. Varga. We have been asked across the board not only to help out on various EU projects, we've been asked to look at AURORA, we've been asked to be on the board of advisors for the Rhythms project. We've also been approached by NATO. We're now working with NATO to deliver training to the southern neighborhood countries, which is essentially all of the Maghreb, Sahel, all the way over to Middle East and Qatar, on combating trafficking cultural property and the links to terrorism financing. And we've been identified by the EU to assist in an ongoing project in Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon. In response to the additional investigations, also working closely with our partners in U.S. Homeland Security. In the last week alone, or pardon me, last month alone, we've assisted Homeland Security in 2 active investigations in the Los Angeles area, and we've helped to seize over 1,000 items in 1 month. We have another case coming up with over 500 crates of looted antiquities in the California area, all from the Mediterranean region. And I'm happy to say that just this week we've closed off another case with Canada on the stolen Winston Churchill photo taken 2 years ago by Yusuf Karsh. Big news stories with big impact. Moving forward, we're working closely with Malta to sort of deepen what we do on a technical level. We're going to be setting up marine training for marine archaeology, marine heritage, bringing in police and customs divers from across Europe to set up underwater crime scenes and look at how 3D photogrammetry can work underwater, as well as doing specific training on financial and cyber investigations, undercover work, and prosecution work, working with Switzerland on a number of different things. So I ran through that quickly. In the interest of time, I will end it there. I will thank you very, very much, and just encourage everyone, if there are ever any cases, if there's ever any assistance you need, please reach out to heritage@osce.org, and we are happy to help in any way, shape, or form. Thank you very much.
I just want to remind participants that they have Cameron's email in the list of participants, so if you have been inspired by something that he said, please reach out if you are interested to find out more. I hope that was okay, Cameron, that I was encouraging people to contact you. Unfortunately, people usually don't contact each other. This was a very interesting topic, but I'm aware that we are, 15 minutes late, so unfortunately we do not have time for questions. Yoga has prepared at least 15 questions, and we were, discussing a lot of the issues that have opened up with this panel. But this panel is just the beginning of our dialogue. Within the AURORA project, we will have specialized events and meetings for this topic, so we just wanted kind of give you a trailer, a sneak preview of what is it that we are thinking about, working on, and what are the subtopics, and how can really technology help us in finding solutions that are effective fight against illicit trafficking. With that, I would like to thank our panelists for their expertise. I mean, this is such an expert and knowledgeable panel, all four speakers. And please reach out, approach them, and speak with them individually if you are interested in some case studies. This is the time in which we break to two parallel sessions. The first parallel session starts at 11:30, so it means that you have 15 minutes to go to coffee. Coffee is on the second floor in the buffet, or if you're smoking outside. If you have not written what you would like to eat for the lunch, you're not going to have lunch. So because now we are sending the list to the restaurant, and also for the dinner. So please approach Anya, who has booked a list for lunch and dinner, if you have not written. Thank you.
Okay, yes, sure.
Just to give short information for the people who are going to go to the workshop in the museum, please, if you go